Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this year's Tropical Update for the 4th of July. We're currently watching Major Hurricane Beryl near the Cayman Islands at the moment near Grand Cayman, really making its way towards the Yucatan, where it will make landfall tomorrow, and then towards northern Mexico, southern Texas, somewhere in there, will it'll make landfall later this weekend. Here's the impact map. We also see Invest 96L, minimal impacts expected from that, so we aren't even highlighting any countries. You'll notice the impact map is the same as it was yesterday, except for the fact that we removed everything to the east of the storm now. So Jamaica, southwestern Haiti, eastern Cuba, no longer under impact warnings. Impact warnings are expected to increase in terms of area over northern Mexico and southern Texas. We'll continue to monitor that. Expected an increase in the moderate risk area as well as the slight low and minimal risk areas further into Texas, perhaps into central Texas. You'll see that here in a second when we get to the cone. Here is the latest satellite image of Beryl this morning. Still a Category 3 hurricane, although heavily sheared, as we can see. The Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman, is located kind of between those two black-white blobs at the end of the loop. You can begin to see Grand Cayman there. We can also see that there is a northern eye wall, but not a southern eye wall. Again, the effects of shear on this system are notable and worth noting. Here is the latest cone watches and warnings in effect with the storm. Again, those hurricane warnings remain in effect for the Cayman Islands. Those will probably be released once those tropical storm force winds leave the area later this evening. We'll also have a hurricane warning in effect from Puerto Costamaya to Cancun, Mexico. That includes the island of Cozumel. Hurricane watch in effect a little to the north and a little to the south, down to the Belize-Mexico border and as far north as Capacotoche. In Mexico, tropical storm warnings in effect for north of, or really, I guess, west of the hurricane warning all the way around to Campeche in Mexico, as well as, again, down to the Belize border. Tropical storm watch in effect in Belize from Chetumal, that is the Belize-Mexico border, down to Belize City. We're also watching potential for a hurricane landfall in either northern Mexico or southern Texas come Monday morning. We'll have watches and warnings likely to be issued probably Saturday for watches, Sunday for warnings for those areas. We'll continue to monitor the progress of the system. Inland watches and warnings are possible for the southern United States. So please do consider that. Here's the latest update on the hurricane stat sheet of all the records that Beryl is setting. Beryl has yesterday, it was the third most ACE through the 2nd of July. Now through the 3rd of July, we have the most ACE on record. Again, ACE is a measure of how much energy these storms are outputting, measured by wind speed. And again, that beats 1886's record of the most days. We also have by far the most major hurricane days on record. Again, Beryl expected to no longer become a major hurricane here within the next few hours. But nonetheless, we're at 4 major hurricane days and counting. The old record was half a day set in 1957. So again, off to an early start, a booming start, one might say, with fireworks today throughout the United States. The models are still in 2 different camps over what's going to happen across the next few days. Either it's going to maintain its strength, which seems relatively unlikely, or as the National Hurricane Center forecasts and a majority of the models seem to forecast, it's going to dip down into tropical storm force strength. That's after it makes its landfall on the Yucatan Peninsula and perhaps weaken into a mid-grade tropical storm. After that, it will re-intensify somewhat, whether or not it actually becomes a hurricane again, or if it just becomes a strong, severe tropical storm is a different story. A good number of the models, though, are beginning to favor a Texas landfall over a Mexico landfall. At this point, though, it's really just semantics as to where it goes. The impact should be relatively consolidated nonetheless, although there still is a good number of models that continue to push the storm a little further to the north. Again, we've been talking about that northward turn along the Mexico-Texas coastline for the past few days. If we take a look at that, if it turns earlier, it's going to landfall further north in Texas. And so that's worth noting. Whereas if it doesn't make that northward turn as early, it's perhaps even a Mexico landfall instead of a Texas landfall. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Again, here in the next few days after the system, after Beryl crosses the Yucatan Peninsula. We have an idea of what its strength is. They'll probably do reconnaissance aircrafts not only in the storm, but also ahead of the storm. And we'll really get a really good handle on this here probably Saturday or so. We'll have a good idea. Again, we aren't expecting a major hurricane to Texas or northern Mexico, but we are expecting a formidable tropical cyclone with lots of rain associated with it. And that is going to be the main concern with this system. In fact, already, even though hurricane force winds possible in Cozumel and Quintana Roo in Mexico, were also and the Yucatan, the state of Yucatan, for that matter, we will need to be monitoring this system very closely for the rainfall threat as well as that wind threat. And so, hurricane force winds possible as well as flooding. Again, this area has been soaked recently, so definitely this isn't going to help. Again, we're expecting tropical storm force winds possible as early as tonight in some of those outlying islands off the coast of the peninsula, such as Cozumel. And then by the time we get to tomorrow morning, much of the peninsula could potentially already begin to experience those tropical storm force winds. By the time we get to Saturday night, we may see some tropical storm force winds along the coastline. And again, depending on how far north this system turns, again, as indicated by this, there is the potential for that northward turn. And so we're continuing to monitor the potential for a northward turn and how that could impact the timing effects to different portions of Texas, mainly. Mexico, we're kind of expecting Saturday and a Sunday for potential tropical storm force winds to begin. That could be a different story for depending on where you are in Texas and depending on the exact storm path that this storm takes. Here's Invest 96L. It looks ugly. I didn't even change the date in the bottom corner, but that's fine. Still a 20% chance of formation. We'll continue to monitor it. Not really anything to look at the moment. You see absolutely no spin at all with it. A little bit of convection. That's all it has going for it. And that's all for now. Happy 4th. Chris Dixon, InfoWeather Media.